One with extraordinary talents and abilities.
Why X-Men?
X is a variable.
Mary Marvel Marching Society membership card.
There's tons of X-Men universes.
First class.
X-Men United.
There's a future past.
Agent Hopkins.
These children of the atom.
Kitty Pryde.
Gambit.
Wolverine.
Beast.
Professor Charles Xavier.
See, I did an X word there.
Protect the world that fears and hates them.
Danger Room. Nitpick.
Kids.
Uncanny X-Men.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the X-Minutes, where we examine,
Exalt.
And extemporalize.
whoa,
I know.
the X-Men movies one chapter at a time. I'm Thomas Howarth.
I'm Jerry O'Brien.
And I'm Steve Lasta.
Gentlemen, it's our first chapter. Are you guys ready to dig into this?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, so this chapter starts us off with the 20th Century Fox logo and ends us with the last words of Charles Xavier.
So I think we're really lucky. Everybody gets a 20th Century Fox. Anybody that does a 20th Century Fox movie gets the 20th Century Fox logo and gets to give you the typical spiel about how this is so great because it feels like Star Wars is starting and all of that, you know? And like that really resonates for us. But we have something much bigger.
Yeah, that fanfare is iconic to say the least.
I missed that in the last two Star Wars films.
I think a lot of people did. But that brings me to my first point. We may not have to miss it for very much longer. So for those of you that don't know, Disney, the all-powerful Mighty Mouse, has acquired 20th Century Fox movie rights, along with a whole swath of other stuff in the deal. The deal got them the movie studio for 20th Century Fox. It got them the TV production arm of 20th Century Fox Television, a couple Fox networks like FX and National Geographic, and then some international stakes like Star TV and Sky TV, which is used overseas. It'll also gain a majority control of Hulu in the deal. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It's only a majority control because Comcast and Time Warner both still have parts in it, but not very big.
A lot of new Disney princesses as a result of this merger, one among them being the alien xenomorph from the Aliens movie.
Yes, Aliens is coming. There's a lot of properties coming in. Oh my gosh, this is going to be incredible. I mean, Marvel's going to have access to so much more content.
Marvel will now be almost full and complete. The only thing I think they're still lacking is Namor.
Namor. Oh, yeah.
Who controls Namor? Is that controlled by the Fantastic Four franchise?
No, because Fantastic Four was Fox.
It's Fox. Yeah.
I think it might be Universal.
Namor, really?
Yeah. And Universal still owns distribution rights to the Hulk.
These intellectual rights were basically there was this huge pool of names that characters that people could choose from, and it's like every studio said, well, I'm going to take this one, well, I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to take this one, and all these wonderful properties that were all, you know, Marvel or DC originally have now been like split worldwide with all these different companies, and all of them are trying to get their piece of the pie. So what we're seeing now is the pie coming kind of back together a little bit.
The family is reunited.
Well, according to a Cinema Blend article from 4 years ago, they have some control of Namor, if not entire control of Namor, and that's 4 years ago. Namor is a great character. I don't think he's an irreplaceable character. I mean, heck, if they could replace the X-Men with the Inhumans,
See how well that went.
yeah. But Namor is a replaceable character, I think. And, you know, in the movie universe in particular, that's pretty salient in our universe that we're discussing, because the Rogue character in this movie takes on some Kitty Pryde aspects and probably some Jubilee aspects as well.
Definitely.
So, I mean, Namor is not indispensable. I don't think anybody's building a franchise off of Namor. But he's a good character.
So interesting small story aside for the Inhumans that you mentioned. Oh my gosh. So I was out on travel and I was stuck out for a few days. So I was looking for something to do. I look at movies in the area and they're showing Marvel Inhumans. I was like, I haven't heard of that. And you guys know I'm a little slacking on the comic book front and stuff like that. So I was like, I haven't heard of the Inhumans. That sounds great. I'll go watch that.
So you're the guy who went and saw Inhumans in the IMAX cinema?
Yes, I did, because I thought it was something special, something wonderful.
How much did you pay?
I paid like $16.
That's amazing. That's the entire movie's gross.
Right? I think so, because I went in there expecting great things. I was like, who are these characters? This is kind of awesome. They have cool powers. I walked out saying, what the F did I just do?
That's $16 you'll never see
I
again.
was like, is this a TV show? I was like, oh my God. So I started looking. I was like, yes, it is a TV show. They just got me. I've been had. And it was a TV show that failed.
Has it already been canceled or no?
I don't know, but it's not good. Bad writing. It's bad characters. I was not on board for sure.
I watched Marvel's Agents of Shields for about 2.5 seasons, and I'd like almost every one of those hours of my life back.
I've continued to watch it, and it has gotten immeasurably better.
Yeah, I have another friend on Facebook who says that. I don't believe either of you.
It's true. The problem with S.H.I.E.L.D. and a lot of other genre properties, I don't think it's that it's on television. It's if it's on network television. Network television is still lagging behind creatively and quality-wise with a lot of cable, premium cable, and streaming services.
That's no excuse.
I understand, but it's the corporate bureaucracy and the fact that at any given network, ABC, Disney being the one we're talking about, you've got committees of people who do nothing but give notes to the people creating the show, and the people creating these notes, giving these notes, don't have the foggiest idea about writing or drama or what makes good television.
Yeah, that being said, what do you think about the fact that now Disney/Marvel is going to have a streaming service under their belt, ready for production? Basically, they're going to have the majority of Hulu under their belt. And I know Disney's had their eyes on opening some kind of streaming service as it is. So now with all these properties, what do you think that holds for us?
I think it means we're going to have to pay more money to see things that we're probably getting for free or very cheaply now. All the networks, CBS with their all access, just so you can watch Star Trek Discovery, led the pack. But all of the networks want their own streaming services because they want people to be able to pay more for entertainment.
Right.
I don't know that it'll be a leap in quality. It might be. There's nothing on Star Trek Discovery that couldn't be done and done better on HBO or on Netflix.
True. What do you guys think that this buyout from Marvel/Disney is going to do for the X-Men universe?
Theoretically, every single movie we're going to talk about, it could be decanonized before we release the first episode.
This is too true.
just to take a look on the downside there.
Yeah. But I think what I said earlier is it can make the X-Men and the Avengers complete. I don't know you'll see it anytime soon. Certainly no sooner than the very end of Avengers 4. But you could theoretically have a post-credit scene in Avengers 4 where one of the X-Men show up, or there's a cut to Xavier's School for the Gifted, and that would be the teaser at the end of the film to show that these universes are united.
You know what I could honestly see is a end credit scene in one of the Deadpool movies with Spider-Man and Deadpool hanging out.
That would be fun.
That would work.
What I would love in something like the Avengers is you're sitting in the Avengers mansion, and assuming they've already cast the coming film, Reed Richards or Johnny Storm shows up. Acting as if he knows all these people, and they're like, who the hell are you? And it turns out the Fantastic Four have been there all along. It's just they've been in some other dimension, and nobody in this dimension knows who the hell they are.
How awesome do you guys think a Fantastic Four movie done correctly will be?
It should be the Citizen Kane of comic book films.
Do you think they have to retell the origin again?
No.
Yes.
Oh, go.
Can I take a step back? Because there are a couple things I wanted to throw out there.
Okay.
First of all, one of the films on the X-Men slate right now is The Dark Phoenix.
It's the next one, isn't it?
Yes.
It's the next main X-Men one.
Right.
The original Dark Phoenix story, as I'm sure Jerry knows, introduces the Shire Empire and the Macron Crystal, and really takes the X-Men deep into space for the first time.
It does.
The most recent X-Men, the last few years of X-Men, and Marvel Comics in general, have had a lot of post-space sort of stuff. Really outer space stuff has been front and center in the Marvel Universe. And so I could see going from Dark Phoenix to something involving X-Men and Guardians of the Galaxy. There's a lot of shared intellectual property there right now in the comic book.
Or even X-Men Thor with his space connection.
Yep.
As simple as it is, Professor Xavier at some point is going to need to hire an attorney, and there's always Matt Murdock.
There is that.
I mean, that's what everybody loved about the 1960s Marvel Universe when it first came about, which was it was all connected. If Iron Man needed an attorney, he hired Matt Murdock. If Reed Richards needed to consult on a science project, he'd bring in Hank Pym.
Yep.
If Spider-Man, broke an arm, he'd go see Don Blake, who was Thor. And the corporate sell-off of the assets made a lot of that impossible. Now it can be possible.
Definitely can. And I'm looking forward to every bit of it.
Getting back to the title sequence of this movie, X-Men, Spider-Man is the first movie that uses the now traditional Marvel slideshow beginning. I think this is the only movie that doesn't have that.
Right.
The Marvel logo on the screen and the flickering comic book images and all of that.
Yes.
So this is the first time we do not see that either before or after the 20th Century Fox logo. And I really like that intro quite a bit.
You like the comic book flipping pages kind of intro?
Yeah.
I do too.
I thought it was good for grounding these movies in a bigger world.
Showing their roots.
So think
Right.
about this. This minute and 17 seconds that we've got in scene number 1 or chapter number 1 is not only introducing the X-Men to the world, it's introducing the Marvel Universe to the entire world and putting it front and center in a way that it had never been before. Those little vignettes do a really nice job of that, but they don't happen here, and I don't think they were necessary here. Maybe for the purpose of this movie, it was easy enough just to say the X-Men are their own thing.
Right. The idea had to come somewhere, and apparently it just did not come yet.
Yeah.
That being said, Spider-Man did draw a lot from this. The whole strands of DNA that are supposed to symbolize mutation. Spider-Man drew a lot from that and using those strands to represent his webbing and his own mutation, which was not from birth, but from an outside source. Is there a term for that kind of mutation versus the ones that happen at birth? I think there is. There's like a world term.
What do you mean a mutation at birth?
The X-Men were born that way. The Hulk, Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, they were older adults almost.
Yeah, they're transformed.
Before they were affected by radiation and their body mutated.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the word mutation is the right word. I know it means what you're saying it means, but in the context of the X-Men movies and Marvel Universe, I'm not sure the word mutation
don't
is the
get all
best.
Princess Bride on me here.
I do not think that word means what you think it means.
By the way, Stan Lee is quoted as saying that the reason he chose mutation for the X-Men is that he was tired of explaining how people got their powers, and he simply decided, well, they were born that way.
It's great.
I could have sworn there was an in-universe term for the two different types, though.
There probably is.
I just can't think of what it is. Listeners, if you guys know what word I'm talking about or what terms I'm talking about, please.
There's a term for what the Inhumans undergo.
Pterogenesis.
I hate the stupid Inhumans. Go to hell, Black Bolt. So is pterogenesis, is that what you're looking for?
I don't think so. It's a distinguishing term for like the different types of mutants, like ones that were born with their powers versus ones that were affected by some outside.
No, they're
source.
all born. They're all born with their powers. Mutants are all born with their powers. So here we go, Jerry. If I get this wrong, correct me. So the what is it? The mutant gene is an extra spot on the chromosome, on one of their chromosomes.
I believe so.
And then it largely becomes active in their teenage years because it was supposed to mirror puberty.
Right.
Right.
Some of the mutations, I guess when these guys are born looking, some of these guys are born looking like fish, and I guess that's those things show up earlier, but not fish or whatever, something odd.
The Innsmouth look.
Nightcrawler, for instance.
So they have their powers. They have their powers are latent at birth, but the mutation has already happened. The mutation happens at conception or soon
I was
after.
talking more like Spider-Man versus the X-Men mutants.
I don't know if there's an in-universe encapsulable word for that, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
They're empowered.
So what do you guys think of what Xavier's saying in this bit here? Do you think this is a good explanation in bringing people that may not be completely familiar with the universe up to speed?
I think it is. I think it's scientifically wrong in terms of the scale. He's talking about it having every few thousand years. It's actually millions of years.
Right.
Isn't it constant, but in small increments generally?
Yeah, I think to answer Thomas's question, I think it's appropriate and works very well for the purposes of this film. It may not be perfectly Jake in terms of the science, but for film goers, yeah, I think this is a good explanation.
there's always a portion of, I believe, instilled in going to see a movie and sitting down in front of it. Yes, you can say, oh, this isn't scientific. You're watching an X-Men movie. You know it's not scientifically true. Just push your I believe button and go with it and understand that this is just meant to get you on board.
I think an attorney would say that the purchase of your movie ticket is an agreement to the willing suspension of disbelief.
There you go. That's beautiful.
Have you guys heard that AMC Theaters has had to post signs in some of their theaters to warn people about the silent moment in The Last Jedi?
I did see that. That's hilarious.
Which they've now backtracked on.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the movie Idiocracy?
Oh, I love that movie. More than I should.
We are living in the early days of that era now when theaters have to post that. And I could tangentially go into the mindset of some movie-going audiences, and the theaters keep worrying about why people are not going to the movies anymore. And I think a lot of us can say it's very simple. There are too many people in the movie theater who think they're in their home, won't shut up, won't turn their cell phones off, and won't let the rest of us enjoy the experience.
Yeah, I almost wish when you went to a theater, like it put you in your own little box to see it on the big screen. Every seat was cordoned off and you couldn't see or hear anybody else in the theater, and you just had your own little room to sit in.
Which would make it easier for those people who do use the cell phone and talk to be dropped into the alligator film moat.
This is true, as well they deserve. I went and saw Atomic Blonde, and I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, have you?
Not yet.
No.
Really stimulating movie, really high intensity, and you have to really pay attention to follow along. Great movie, by the way, great soundtrack, pulls you in really well. But we had this couple of ladies that were sitting back behind me to my left that were talking like gossipy old women the whole movie.
How old were they?
They were probably 40s or 50s.
I think that's the wrong. Who told them that this? Maybe because Charlize Theron was the star, they were expecting something different.
This is possible, but it is the first time in a movie where I've actively turned around and said something to somebody. I was like, excuse me, people are trying to enjoy this movie. Would you please shut up and keep your conversation to yourself? And they promptly did so, because I'm a very large man and can be slightly intimidating.
It's rare that I don't have to do that, and I don't enjoy it. My favorite story about having to shush someone at the movies, you may remember a movie back in the 80s called Quest for Fire.
Yes.
Where there is not a single line of dialogue in the entire film. It's basically grunting cavemen. And there was a mom and maybe a 5-year-old girl sitting in front of me. And for the first 10 minutes of the movie, the mom kept leaning over, and as the movie continued, was explaining what was happening to her daughter.
Oh.
And I put a stop to that right away.
It's like, maybe you should watch this at home, or maybe not bring a 5-year-old.
Yes.
So I nearly got the shit kicked out of me at Logan. I'm so glad I could say that in those words too.
Bringing us right back on product, right?
my wife and I, indeed, my wife and I went to see Logan opening weekend. Couldn't see it opening night for whatever reason, and we went to the IMAX theater in Sheepshead Bay.
Oh yeah. I don't know the name of it, but I know what you mean.
As the movie started, some guy's cell phone a few feet down from me rings, and this is right after a whole bunch of people came in, like during the Deadpool opening sequence, whatever it was. As the movie's starting, some guy's phone rings and he starts talking to whoever he's talking to. And I'm like, dude, movie or whatever. You know, I was polite about it, but I was like, get off your goddamn phone. And turns out this guy was a monster. And it devolves into this huge shouting match as the movie started. My wife was furious. I'm lucky I didn't get my butt kicked because I'm not a huge guy. And we're never going to that movie theater again. My point really in all this, though, is I'm so glad that the movie theaters are sort of pushing higher priced, higher value products now, because it does sort of
weed out the dead wood.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're not going to spend $25 to go see a movie you don't really care about on opening night. You're not going to go to the iPix theater. I don't know if you have iPix down in Maryland, Thomas, but the iPix is very much like what you guys were describing, with the little it's almost like a little capsule you're in. I love that the Alamo Drafthouse threatens to throw you out.
Right.
Bravo.
If you give me exactly the movie experience I want, I will happily pay $25 and more if that's what it comes to.
Right.
Agreed.
I don't even need the food service. I like it a little bit.
A little bit.
I like, one of my problems with Alamo is I like leaning back. You know,
right.
Alamo doesn't have the reclining seats.
Oh, we have this fantastic theater here. I think it's a nationwide chain, is the Egyptian, and they're part of Regal, I believe. And they have the most amazing theater that I've ever been in. Every seat is a reclining seat. There are tons of them. It's not like when recliners first came out and there was like maybe 30 seats in there. No, there's tons of these, and it's all done stadium style so that I can't even see the people that are down in front of me at all. And the people behind me I'm not in their way. As a giant guy, that's one of my biggest problems at a movie theater is I feel like I'm blocking people behind me. And in these theaters, I don't feel like that. I know that nobody can see me and I can't see anybody else except for the people in my own row. And that's fantastic to me.
I said, I can live without the food and the drink. I can live without reclining seats. Give me good sound, good picture, and silence. And I'm a happy camper. That's all I want. That's all I'm asking for. And also a movie theater where the staff of the theater is responsive. I've gone for many years now to the AMC 34th Street Theater in Midtown Manhattan to see a lot of films on the first day. And the audiences, because it's the first show and it's early in the day, the audiences are usually pretty good. There have been a couple of times, though, there and in other theaters where the movie is starting or about to start. You're in the coming attraction and there's a problem with the picture. There's a problem with the sound. In these giant complexes, it can take you 10 minutes to go out of the theater, go downstairs, find a staff member. I've learned to ask for the manager and get them to do something about it. I had to actually go to a different theater one day to see the first Thor film because there was a problem with the screen.
Yeah.
When we went to see the second show of The Last Jedi that I saw, they stopped it like 10, 15 minutes in because the 3D wasn't working. And they stopped it and restarted the movie in 3D. I felt so bad for all those people that were there for their first Last Jedi show.
Oh.
I have some notes on the actual movie.
Okay, let's go.
Believe it or not. One of the things that I think is fascinating about this movie is that it was in development for nearly 20 years, starting in 1984. And there were a lot of interesting names attached to it. One of my favorite names that was attached to this movie is Joss Whedon. And Joss Whedon is, I don't know if he's a credited writer in the movie, but he's credited on IMDb for some reason. He says, according to Joss Whedon, I have notes on this, he only has 2 lines in the movie. One of them is the line about what happens to lightning when a toad gets hit by lightning.
Right.
And the other one is when Cyclops.
He asks Wolverine, "How do I know it's you?"
Yeah, exactly.
And Wolverine's response is perfect.
You're a dick.
So you're saying all the wittiest stuff. No, there's plenty of wit in here, but those are some of the most memorable lines.
Yeah. I'm personally a huge Joss Whedon fan, so like I think I would really enjoy a Joss Whedon X-Men movie. I mean, I love the Joss Whedon X-Men comics. I looked up the actual credited screenwriter, Tom DeSanto, who's also one of the producers on the film, and in addition to being the guy who basically did the X-Men and wrote the X-Men and the Transformers movies and is a major producer, he also helped out on Battlestar Galactica, which was fantastic. Right. If you've never binge-watched Battlestar Galactica, highly recommended.
Great show.
And he's got a comic book collection of over 40,000 comic books. So he's the real deal. Another name that was attached to this was James Cameron.
He was also supposed to adapt the first Spider-Man movie for about a decade.
He does well with blue people.
Yes, he does.
When they finally have that Nightcrawler Mystique team-up movie, he's the guy. Right. But, they went with Bryan Singer instead, who's, Bryan Singer's had quite a career, obviously, and lately has had... not quite the career. For those of you that don't know, Bryan Singer is one of the many, many celebrities who has been accused of some form of sexual harassment in late 2017.
Yeah,
is that accurate without slandering anybody?
I think so. And I read this morning that his executive producer credit on The Gifted has been rescinded, so you won't be seeing his name on screen during the second season.
Interesting.
I want to talk to you about The Gifted next time it comes up. I'm going to breeze past it right now, though, if that's okay.
I almost thought you were starting to do a Hamilton thing there, Steve.
I could have, and I didn't. The third famous name I wanted to bring up is John Williams, who they also sought out to do the music for this. He did not, and a guy named John Ottman, who's worked with Singer quite a bit, did the music here. I haven't really thought too much about the music in this movie yet, but John Williams isn't so bad.
Yeah, I haven't thought much about it either, but going through this chapter by chapter, I definitely intend to try to pay a little more attention. And that's one of the great things about diving this deep into these movies is you get to look at stuff that you haven't really looked at before.
The note I want to use to pull that all together is imagine this could have been a movie written by Joss Whedon, directed by James Cameron, with music by John Williams. That is an entirely different movie.
Definitely.
I don't know if it's better or worse.
A Boy Can
Whedon,
Dream.
I thought, did a wonderful job with the Avengers. I thought The Age of Ultron is one of the worst Marvel movies, but
I don't think you can lay that all at his footsteps, though.
no.
That's the committee overreach by Marvel. They did it to a certain degree with Iron Man 2, which is why Jon Favreau is no longer working with Marvel. And it's also why Joss Whedon is no longer really working with Marvel.
Yeah.
Well, now he's working with DC.
Yeah,
So.
Batgirl.
A couple more notes on the movie, if you guys don't mind.
Sure. Let's
I did some research, and I want to put it to use in
go.
these
I'm so
opening
proud
minutes.
of you, Steve.
This will be the last time I do research.
Perish forbid.
Like all good movie by minuters, I swung on over Rotten Tomatoes to see how this was doing. It's 83% on the tomato meter, which is 135 fresh and 31 rotten. This is amongst the 50 best superhero movies of all time, but most of the movies in that top 50 list are much newer.
Every day they're getting more and more to choose from for that list. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
but this is the movie that really set all that in motion. So it deserves its own spot.
this is it.
This is the one that starts it all.
And one of the great things about this movie franchise is that it takes us from the start all the way through what's happening now, and it's continuing to go. So we get to go from the beginning and see how it evolves or mutates going through to what we're seeing today.
I think I've said it before. I like this film. I think it was the best that they could probably produce at that point in time, year 2000, for the kind of budget they were willing to spend on a superhero movie. And I don't remember offhand what they did budget this for. I've always felt that it could have been much more. Certainly could have also been much, much worse. I think we lucked out. We got a decent superhero film out of it. I think the third act could have been beefed up quite a bit, and certainly they could have done more if they had a larger budget. But we have that ability now with the current and ongoing X-Men movies. So let's enjoy.
So the budget for this movie was $75 million.
In 2000, which is
Right.
probably like $125 million for a film today.
Which is not all that much for this kind of movie. That budget was so tight that they edited out, they cut the Beast and Nightcrawler from this movie. As, because they would have cost like $5 million to add those characters.
Its box office pull was $296 million. So it more than tripled its budget.
And as Steve pointed out in our first episode, the X-Men films have cumulatively made something like $5 billion. So,
That's insane.
yeah.
Just on the box office.
Yeah.
Right. Do you guys have anything else for this chapter? It's going to be really hard for me. If I say minutes a lot, guys, I'm sorry. I've been doing this for a while, dealing with minutes. So it's going to take me a little bit to transition into talking about chapters.
You really don't have to. You can say minutes. You can say
True.
these minutes. We're doing X minutes.
This is true. It's a variable.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that.
All right. Do you have anything else to say about these minutes then, gentlemen?
This was a good opening to a very good film, and it laid the groundwork for so much more, not just with the X-Men, but for Marvel and even for DC
Yeah, this set a standard.
to set a standard and to usher in the golden age of costume superhero comic book films.
It was already a huge process with Mystique, apparently.
Oh, yeah, I can
In terms of
imagine.
makeup and everything.
Yeah.
I think there's a featurette on the DVD or the Blu-ray or one of these things that shows Mystique getting her makeup done. It was a process, to say the least.
Yeah, if you follow the actress Rebecca Romaine Stamos on Instagram, she's got some old videos, old QuickTime videos of her getting the makeup put on stuff that's pretty fantastic.
There's one more thing I wanted to mention, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Prior to this movie coming out, there was a featurette thing that was released on the internet, but it might have shown on TV as well.
Now, is that the one with Senator Kelly talking about mutants in our world and stuff like that?
Exactly.
It's a public
Yeah.
service announcement, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. It's part of the DVD, and actually did split that out. I just didn't put it in our little folder.
Oh, so that's on the drive then.
Right.
Oh,
Or
excellent.
I'll put it on the drive.
Excellent. I distinctly remember going out of my way to watch that.
Yeah, it was interesting.
I have one last thing, and then I'm done. I promise.
Okay.
I don't recall seeing this in a theater, but I'm sure I did. I do know that when this was released, I was in Europe for a month, and I recall realizing that it was out in some European city and going, holy cow, I have to see this. And I didn't realize it was now. Like,
Right.
it just wasn't that on top of it. And I had other things going on in my life that summer. But I remember being it might have been Berlin. It might have been Florence. I don't know. And seeing like X-Men billboards and going, oh, that's now. And, immediately thinking, how can I see this in English in this country and not being able to figure it out?
Right.
Probably seeing it at the Pavilion, not far from where me and Jerry live.
Yeah, I had the same issue when I was in the military. I'd know movies coming out, and we'd be at a port station over in the Mediterranean somewhere, and you'd be like, "Oh, I really want to see this movie, but I know I can't see it in English." That happened most memorably with Phantom Menace when Phantom Menace came out, and what they did is our ship actually flew projectors and the movie out to our ship, out to our carrier, and we all watched it out in the hangar bay. It was pretty cool.
Did anybody go AWOL as a result of being forced
No,
to watch
because we
Phantom
didn't
Menace?
realize at the time how bad it really was.
Enlistments went
I think
way
we were
down after that.
How soon after Phantom Menace was released did they bring you the films?
It was while it was still in theater, so
But not like opening day or anything.
no. Because we were out in the middle of the Mediterranean Ocean. I would say it was fairly close to maybe the middle of its box office run.
Oh, that would drive me crazy. That's why I can never join the military.
We didn't have like the inundation of the world saying, "Hey, you need to watch this movie."
And I guess you had more important things to worry about.
We did. All right, gentlemen, I think that about wraps up this episode. Thank you everybody for tuning in. If you'd like to connect with us on social media, you can do that at X Minutes Podcast, anywhere, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you want to email into the show and give us some thoughts, you can do that at xminutespodcast@gmail.com. Check out our website at xminutespodcast.com. Anything else, gentlemen?
Excelsior!
Excelsior.
Excelsior.